Afternoon, everybody. How's it going today? So we're moving on today quickly, I hope, because I don't have a heck of a lot of time today, but I want to get the next step of this build skim bedded at least. So when I left you off of part one, we had just installed the rear pillar, and we had epoxy bedded in the uh, bottom metal. No, sorry, the pillar. Sorry, I forgot the screwdriver. All right. Yeah, we had epoxied in the rear pillar and probably the main pillar. I haven't really decided yet. And this stage today, we're going to be epoxying the pillar in place. So I wanted to put some skim bedded epoxy on it and look at epoxy bedding the front contact point and the rear contact point. Now, like I thought about this kind of build throughout the night last night and trying to decide if I want to install a front pillar or not. That pillar is really challenging because there's not a lot of material there, and there's so many different ways to do it, and I'm not quite sure yet if I'm going to benefit from it enough to warrant the amount of work that it requires. So I'm thinking right now I'm probably going to epoxy bed the front, the rear, and the central pillar today, and if I do the pillar, it'll be in the future. The front, rather, it'll be in the future, and that's mainly because there is zero material in there, and so you can dam that up and fill it full of epoxy, but there's just so little material there. Really, the solution is to cut a block, glue it into place, and start over, which is the way that I would want to do it because I feel that's the right way to do it. Maybe I'll do that today or get it started at least. I am not sure yet. But there's also the angle of the mag well that comes into play there. And so basically there's not a lot of room. There's a couple things going against it to do it properly. And so I'm not sure that it would warrant, it would be worth it is what I mean. So anyway, so today we're going to bed. And my idea is I'm going to epoxy bed up to this point. And I'm going to bed the rear, of course, and then skim bed the pillar, and then we're going to be rock solid. A few things I just wanted to go over really quick before I pause it is that a lot of people make the mistake of they take the stock and they rough it up for their epoxy, or they drill their little holes, or everybody's got a different system. If you do that right now, what you essentially do is you take all your oils from your action, everything like that, and you force it into the stock and then make it very difficult to clean. So because of the texture you've created. So wipe it down, degrease it first before you start sanding. That's an important step because as soon as you put your sanding drum in there, you've contaminated your sanding drum and you've thrown that oil in there, and that will potentially contaminate your mix. Now, you can try to wipe that down after, but the surface is rough and it doesn't. So while it's smooth and clean like this, now is the time to degrease it before sanding. Okay? So that's kind of like my tip. And I just use a rubbing alcohol. If it's a surface that's not visible, acetone would be the way to go. But I'm not sure how acetone, and I mean a pure acetone, not a nail polish remover, how that would react with this finish, because it is a sprayed on kind of paint. And acetone is usually deadly on that. So I'm just going to go with a high quality rubbing alcohol that I took for my wife. Anyway, and my release agent is paste wax. I have used shoe polish in the past. I actually got some of my favorite release agent from the shoe polish from the dollar store, and it's I think it's because it's so low quality, it's I don't know, it spreads very well. And of course, something like a Play-Doh or a plasticine or modeling clay. I'm the modeling clay kind of guy, and you'll be filling that in all areas where you don't want putty to go. There's quite a few areas that I don't want putty to go in on these. So this might warrant actually some tape off with some masking tape. That's usually a good way of blocking off a big area. So a few different ways to do this today. Anyway, that's where we're at right now, and I'll pause it right here. And when I come back, we should have some half decent looking epoxy. All right, check with you soon. How's it going, everybody? So here's the results of today's bedding session. wanted to just add a couple of things. When it comes to doing this, I don't know if I covered it in the first video, but you really have to cover your stock in masking tape and really get it completely covered, because it gets like on your fingerprints, you know, and you don't realize, and you grab the stock and you leave an epoxy fingerprint. So just keep that in mind when you're doing it. So today's focus, now of course the stock is a little bit tighter in the action than it was before, and I put on a bipod to make it basically easier and level it out. So today's focus was, I don't know if you can make that out, but this portion right here. So we built up a nice skim layer. It actually went twice with it, and so it's surrounded by the pillar. This cutout of the back is for the basically the trigger mechanism right here. You can see it's very close, so there'd be no point in having an epoxy layer right there. So there's a nice surround, and like there's a nice half circle over here for the other front one. And keep in mind that this epoxy built up here on the sides is mainly to support the whole pillar. Like when I put the pillar in yesterday, it's a multi-step process, and this epoxy, while it does support and surround the pillar, it's actually more to add structure and kind of reinforcement to the piece of walnut that I put there, and also the pillar. So this is a whole functioning reinforcement of the stock with a pillar. So for me, my action is based on this. This is where the center of my bedding job is taking place. So today at the front, I relieved this, and I put the first coat of, it's actually two, the same as this one. I did them at the same time. Epoxy in the front. Now keep in mind, these are not cleaned up. These are straight. The gun just popped out. I'm out of time for today. But you can see here, there's a nice square piece of epoxy that corresponds beautifully with this square, so bump the camera, square cutout on the action. I don't know if you can make that out, but. So that's great. And then at the back, I did relieve, but I only put a small skim coat to even out the, basically so the front bedding area would be even. I just don't have time to focus too much on today. So I put a little bit of epoxy there just to even it out. And then my third session, I'll finish this and probably add another skim layer to this as I clean it up. I'll clean up the edges and that'll all blend. But there's a nice square bit of epoxy here that will add support and a non-compressible surface to this stock. So when the action goes back in the stock, and now it doesn't just sloppily fit in, it mates up beautifully. And so it actually, like when you push it, you actually have to kind of set it in. That's what it feels like. It doesn't just plop in there anymore. And everything, still some wax buildup here and there. So you might see some of that on the trigger gird. So because my action my bedding job is based on that center pillar, that's the one I'll install first. And just like I showed in the last video, it bottoms out and that's it. And then the custom bottom metal, same kind of idea. And like I said in the other one, nothing's weird here. Everything just lines up like it should. And then we tighten it down. Same as the pillar. You can feel where it bottoms out. And the barrel is still even and completely free floated, the same as before. And again, I talked about a little bit about it yesterday. Give the bolt a quick wipe here before I slap it in. And it's dust everywhere. Sorry about that. All right. So our bolt, like when you're cycling the action, it just feels so much more positive than before. You can actually like feel, it's hard to explain, but you can feel the vibrations through into the stock because they've essentially been mated up. And like, forgive my ugly edges there, but you can see how tight that is, right? It's bedded all the way around, about 1 inch in the barrel. So that's my contact point. That's my contact point. And then a little bit still more to do down here. But again, you can see where the edges aren't, there's no gap. So there's no movement of this rifle like there was before. And so essentially that should equate to much better groups at the range, and everything should be much more stable. So anyway, that's where I'm at for today. That's all the time I got for this stage of the project today, and hopefully I'll be able to come out tomorrow and finish up some more skin bedding. But anyway, thanks a lot for watching. See you next time.